Earlier today, the House Judiciary Committee had a rare recess meeting to discuss a package of 8 bills that Democrats are rushing to push through, claiming they are wildly popular with the American public. I'm not sure where they came up with that, but that's what they say. But the question is, are they trying to find real solutions to gun violence, or are they just interested in appealing to their base? With me now to talk about what came out of this hearing or debate today is Congressman Dan Bishop. He is a member of the House Judiciary Committee and Homeland Security Committee. He represents the 9th Congressional District of North Carolina. He's a true blue member of Congress. Dan, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony. I'm always thankful for you and for the news you provide. I'm glad to be with you again.
Before we get into the hearing, I want to show a short clip of last night. We held a Prevote Stand program, and we had Darrell Scott, who was or who is the father of Rachel Scott, who was killed in Columbine School, and that was brought up today. And I want just for our listeners to hear what he had to say last night, which was really setting the stage for the conversation that took place or debate that took place in the committee hearing today. Play the clip of Mr. Scott, please.
We know there are answers to school violence. We've seen it. But the politicians keep going back to the same old issues of gun control, hardening the target, police officers in schools. And we need as much emphasis on reaching the heart of our kids, touching the heart of our kids, because the shooters most of the time are students.
I mean, that's what we heard today. More gun control. That's apparently what the Democrats are pushing through.
Well, and Tony, maybe both sides are guilty of it, and I believe he's right about the stalemate, but it comes from sort of a lack of good faith. I really think it's not a good idea to have 6 bills that were sitting around in Congress, bring us back during recess because everybody's very upset, and ram them through as a package. And but there's not really an inclination to interact and to consult. One member on the Democratic side said Republicans are complicit in these kind of accusations. I've raised the question that it looks like 3 of the pieces of this bill would conflict with what appears to be the current law on what the Second Amendment provides. It provides protections to 18 to 20-year-olds. I've had myself the notion that maybe there ought to be more limitations on young people because they're not fully developed yet. Their judgment's not as fully developed, but you've got to contend with what the Constitution provides as interpreted by the Supreme Court. No interest in doing that. They just want to pass through a bunch of bills that would potentially strip. And then when we get to that point, we had one member, Mr. Jones from New York, who said, "You will not stop us from passing gun control. If the filibuster obstructs us, we will abolish it. If the Supreme Court objects, we will expand it. We will not rest until we've taken weapons of war out of our communities." That's pretty elemental, Tony.
Yeah.
So my job then is to go and say, I'm here to defend, first of all, the Constitution of the United States and the rights it confers upon the people.
Dan, I think that's an extremely important point to make. And that really, in many ways, summarizes the two sides, the Republican side, the Democratic side, the liberal conservative side. We have a Constitution. That is the document by which the American people agree to be governed by. And you're right, that should be at the forefront of any consideration of legislation. They see that as a speed bump on their way to accomplish what they want to do.
Right. They think the only answer is to strip people of their guns, and they want to do it as broadly as they possibly can. That's what they want to do. I would say to you played the clip. I think there are solutions. I think we can go back and work some more on hardening schools. But really, Tony, you and I know, and people who listen to your program know, that the real issue is, frankly, a loss of the relationship between the country and God.
Yeah.
We know that it is the pervasive welfare state and the intention to destroy family units, the loss of connectedness of young people because of that, the lack of counseling and strong father figures in their lives in many cases. We know all those things. And maybe there are ways we're going to have to come up with some new ideas to fix them instead of just going out and saying we're going to deny Americans yet another right that's fundamental to them under ordered liberty.
Well, 92% of violent acts are done without a gun. So what are we going to control next? I mean, we saw just a few years ago in England, they had to restrict the sale of knives over 3 inches because people were using knives. People use cars. We've had people running cars into crowds. So it's not the instrument that's in the hand, it's the condition of the heart. And I do think this is a time, and I know you agree with me, so we're not having a debate, we're having a conversation, but I do think it's time for Republicans to be bold and assertive and say, look, we have the social science here. We have the profiles of those who have committed these crimes, and we see what kind of family structure they come from. We see the absence of morality. It's time to have a conversation about returning to where we have God and morality. As Washington said, we can't have morality without religion. It's time to bring that back into the public discussion, and that includes our schools.
You know, Tony, you hit it exactly right. Someone has pointed it out to me in the last year or so that the word repentance really means returning to a point of origin, and that leaders are called upon to call the nation to repentance. That the last president who did it was Woodrow Wilson. It's interesting, and I think it's fundamentally right what you said. We've got to return to a point of origin, a previous understanding of how our network of people, the people in our society, relate to one another. We've got to figure out a way to accomplish that. So I'm not here at all to be a naysayer on solving this problem or to deny the horrific nature of what we're seeing over and over again. But you know, Tony, they say America's now awash in guns. America's been awash in guns for its entire history. But we didn't have what we see today for our entire history. Things that have changed. And it would be illogical to go think that somehow grabbing guns is going to solve what ails us. It is not.
Yeah. And just, for full disclosure, I mean, as a police officer, I've seen this. I've faced guns. In fact, we've had a shooting here at the Family Research Council in the District of Columbia. We had an LGBTQ activist come in here, try to kill some of our people. And we have some of the most restrictive laws in the nation right here in Washington, D.C. Didn't stop him. So, and again, that's dealing with symptoms. And I think it's right. The time is right. If the American people want solutions, it's time to go to the heart of the matter, which is, in fact, the heart. And we need to have those conversations.
I totally agree. Cain slew Abel with the jawbone of an ass. The condition of the heart has always been the issue. We have had policies in the United States over the last 40 to 50 years that have caused our social fabric to deteriorate. And the crushing consequences of that are all too plain to see. We can address that together as Americans of good faith, of will, and I hope we will.
And we'll be right there with you. Congressman Dan Bishop, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Tony.